Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru. I wanted to bring you a before the lock show for the 2023 Genesis. There is a few things I wanted to share with you, get you ready before you lock in those final lineups, maybe even some final bet thoughts. You might want to listen to this, give you some edges, and I'm going to talk ownership projections. There is a little bit of weather that we want to look at. There might be a small advantage, as we always got to take advantage of. You got some withdrawals. So I got a lot of information, enough that I wanted to put out there for you guys that kind of made me lean a little bit on some of my future builds from the DFS side. So let's go talk a little golf. All right, first with the updates. Real quick, you'll see this also, of course, when you're drafting your teams, but the field has shrunk down to 130. Right there, I was actually saying 129. Last I saw, that was 130. There will be no alternatives brought in, so it's kind of funny enough. I was actually interested in Garrick Higo, the lefty with the distance, been playing pretty good golf, but he is an alternative, but it's going to have to be a lot more withdrawals before we see him. As like I said, there's about to be 9 more guys withdrawing. I don't see that happening. But of course, yesterday, Brendan Steele withdrew. No reasoning. Yeah, Davis Riley, Chris Kirk was early on. Same with Matt McNeely. So I guess that shoulder is really bothering him. And then, of course, you got Webb Simpson. So anyways, just note to self, highly doubt you would have any of those guys in your lineups. But if you did do early lineups, maybe Brendan Steele might be someone that you want to make sure you don't have in. All right, the big thing, what I've talked about this yesterday. Of course, I mentioned I bet Will Z and interested in playing him here. And I started to remember, I thought that there was a time. So the last time we saw him was at the Farmers. He missed the cut, had a chance at the very end to make a birdie on 18 to break even and make the cut. It did not happen. And I actually went through, found the second round coverage, and good enough that there was a ton of coverage with him because he was playing with Homa. I wanted to go back and see if there was anything that showed that Will Z was having some issues with the back. And funny enough, I found really nothing. But the only thing was at one time he reached up to grab his back, but it was upper back. So literally he could have been itching. I didn't see anywhere where he was getting stretched out after a tee shot. What did ring out was how bad he was putting within 5 feet. And if you've been watching him, it's kind of funny. If he's outside 20 feet, he's been putting really well, but almost like what Scheffler used to do over a year ago was when he would get in that 5 to 3 foot range. I don't know why, but Will Z actually takes the putter kind of outside. And then when he makes impact, it's towards the toe of the putter. And this happened over and over. They've shown this on the golf coverage. And that seems to be the problem. I don't know if he hopefully has worked on that, but it makes no sense why you would be striking the ball in the toe with your putter when you have those little putts. So where I was going with all that is if any reason you were not going to play him, I mean, for me, that, it's that little 5 to 3. When you're putting on these POA greens, there's a lot of misses inside that 5 foot range, which if you're hitting it on the toe of your putter, could even cause more, but I don't see any issues. Now, again, we'll see what happens. We still have a little bit of time if there is a back issue with Will Z. And again, all this has come out of everybody speculating, why would you miss the waste management when you have such a large money to be won? And again, it could simply be he had some kind of family thing or just wanted to rest it, has a lot of golf coming. We could sit there, but nothing that I saw from an issue with actually his back at the last round of the Farmers. Okay, then the last thing, I haven't got to see the second round, right? So we have, this is being recorded Wednesday around noon Eastern, but we did have some press releases. And the only thing I got out of any of them, it was interesting. Scotty Scheffler said that the rough is up and thicker and harder than he's ever seen. Now, again, I mentioned the superintendent sheet said only 2-inch rough, and that's what's typically standard here. But they've had a ton of rain, and I think over the weekend we're expecting rain. We are going to talk some weather because I think there is maybe a slight advantage on the flights, and you'll see why. But anyways, just note to self. So what does that mean? I kind of did a different model, wanted to see guys that had, distance with fairways gained, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll show you, but long story short, that was the only thing that I got out that it was interesting to me. Regarding all the pressers so far with, I think there was Rose, Scheffler, Tiger Woods, and I think that was it off the top of my head. Nothing. Oh, and then I think the gentleman that's playing under the Sifford Ward, I don't know if that's Bird or whoever, but yeah, so there's the updates. Okay, let's go jump over What I want to do is go look at ownership projections for you. I even got a lineup build that I'm kind of interested in, and we're going to play around with that a little bit. All right, let's go jump over to Fantasy National, and we'll look at ownership projections, play around with a lineup that you might be interested in, especially if you think that there is some advantage on the tee time flight. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at ownership projections. I think that probably the first thing we want to get out of the way. And you're going to notice these guys start over here. These weren't all my picks. What these guys are is early morning flight. And we'll talk why I'm looking at that. But as of, like I said, noon Eastern on Wednesday, so we're a lot closer. So now I can, at least give you something that's probably going to be pretty close to where this all shakes out when you look at your DraftKings lineups and where their ownership projections fall in. We've got a large sample size now of actual generated lineups coming out of Fantasy National. And again, if you don't understand what that is, you can use this tool. And when you have all your favorite guys, you can pump them into like a generator and set some parameters, and it's going to build how many lineups you want, 150, 50, 25, whatever it is. That's where this number comes from. So I actually like it. And this is over here, the reflection of actual lineups generated. And funny enough, even though I thought Rory might be less owned, he's number one. And so, maybe some guys, I know that some of the other analysts out there are touting him that, he should have a comeback, and I agree with that. You got Finau, funny enough, coming in number 2. Xander 3. I had some of you guys ask me, hey, Xander, it seems like he, gets a top 10 and that he's happy with that. I think the one thing that I learned over the years of doing this is to really focus on what happened in the previous tournament or tournaments. With these guys is a bad mistake. It's amazing how they can flip not only day to day, but from the front 9 to a back 9. From a showdown that I play a lot of showdown, it's almost comical of how they could go out one day and shoot 6, 7 under and literally come out the next day and shoot 3 or 4 over. It's almost, I've always said, it's pretty rare that they'll back that up 8 under, 8 under, or 6 under, 6 under. It's more of what I just kind of mentioned. Of course, we've also been dealing with different course splits where, they're playing the north, they're playing the south, they're playing Pebble Beach, they're playing Monterey. We don't have that. We don't have to worry about that. But even if you go look and historically look at someone that makes 4 rounds of golf, kind of the ups and downs. There's the guys that will stay steady, but more likely if they shoot a crazy 8, 9 under one day, the odds of them following that up are very slim. So all that means is don't get so hung up on what you've seen over the last tournament or so. Of course, if they're just in disastrous form, over tournament, that's another thing. But, I'm not worried about Xander. Again, it was just a lot of missed putts from 5 feet in. And like a Jason Day, burned a lot of edges. Okay, off that soapbox and moving on. Max Homa's coming in 4th. So again, the guys that I was very interested in, I told you that I was very disappointed in last week and kind of burned me in different areas from a DFS perspective. Xander and Homa were my guys. And then, of course, Rory. JT, I think a lot of course form and also, also good form, right? He's playing good golf. Had a really nice Sunday. You have Victor Hovland, who maybe, hasn't really done, I don't think, a whole lot since he won over in the Bahamas Tigers tournament. But, of course, people are seeing that course history. A T4 and a T5, so that makes sense. Morikawa, so where I'm going to be leaning is a little more with length, so Morikawa is not going to be fitting in my player pool. Also, he just makes me nervous with his short game, definitely with the putter. Now, last year he ended up in 2nd, and that was all because he just hit fairways and greens. And if he hits a ton of fairways and greens, you don't have to worry about it. Hopefully the putter, kind of spikes a little bit. Rahm's all the way down here at 15. And same with Scotty. So, if you want to get a little unique at the top, those guys who could easily go out and win this thing. I think Scotty's just, the old saying within DFS, if you win a tournament and play next weekend, the odds that you're going to, do well are pretty minimal. I don't think that at all applies to Scotty. That usually happens more with guys that are newer to winning a tournament, not used to all the press and the party and whatever they do and getting ready, within a 3-day turnaround. Next, we got Spieth, Taylor Moore. I think from the model perspective, and there's reasons why I'm interested in Taylor Moore. He's got the distance. There's a lot of things, but there's also ways that at 14%, that makes me a little nervous. But that could be a super chalk bomb. You got Adam Scott playing pretty good golf. We got this resurgence thing coming, or not coming, but was with us today. As you've got Fowler and Day and Rose just won a tournament. Like all these guys that if you've been watching and playing the DFS a long time, all these guys are kind of now, resurging their careers. Of course, we had Spieth do that over a year ago. Wyndham Clark been playing good golf, and again, the mix fits, but that's a pretty high percentage on him. Patrick Cantlay's at 13, and he's a pure fade for me until I see something out of Patrick. His game makes me very nervous at this point. Also, as most people, I'm not a super Patrick Cantlay fan. There's times when I want to play him, but if I see an opening where I think I don't have to, I don't play him. Days up to 12, you got M. Fleetwood is pretty interesting. I think that's a pricing thing. Also, if this plays tough, right? Typically, Tommy is a good player for that. And also, you've got, he does have a win internationally on the DP World Tour. I think it was back sometime early December, mid-December. Siwoo Kim just been steady. You got KH Lee, where I like him more for a score fest, and I don't see that as this. You got Cameron Young, who had a chance, of course, to win here last year, ended up in second. You got Hideki, where it should fit his build. I had some people asking me why Sam Burns, because if you looked at what I was sharing with you guys yesterday, he was, I think ranked somewhere in the 90s in that model. That was looking at just recent form. And if you did an analysis of how does he play on these kind of tracks on Riviera in the past, he was up there in my model. And also I'm going with that, Sam Burns could sometimes be a slow starter to the year. That happened the previous time when then he went out and, did some damage in Florida, of course, won Valspar. So anyways, that's why I like Sammy Burns. And also he's a good putter, not the greatest around the green, but of course he's got the elite, pretty much, distance off the tee and can just be in fuego with the irons. You got Tommy Kim. I'm not going to go through all these guys. I got Fitzy. That's an interesting one at 8,300. I kind of mentioned yesterday, I think it's a good course fit for him. And it's, do you want to take the risk of that the neck is totally fine, which it should be. If it was just a pull or a strain neck, I'm sure we've all had that at times. If he's under 10%, that's not a bad play. Patrick Rogers is almost like the exact same ownership. Now, big difference in price. Of course, I already mentioned that I was interested in him. But at that price, that could be a little spooky for me. Fowler, I don't get the Adam Hadwin. I know, I guess he's had maybe a good showings here. Maybe I'll have to go look at him. Let's go take a look at Adam Hadwin at 10%. I get, hey, he just had a good outing at the Waste Management. And he hasn't missed a cut since the John Deere. So that could be a bit of it. Let's go look at the Genesis. Missed the cut last year, but made the cut every time before that. So there's a bit probably there. Of course, he's pretty accurate off the tee. Anything over 60%, I think is pretty good, but does not have the poke in his bat. So, yeah, he's not going to be in my player pool. Maybe I'll regret that, but I think I'd rather get to Keegan. Will Z, so there we go. I think, this is from a DFS big game perspective, this is a time to strike on Will Z. Unless we have any other information that comes out regarding his health, I think it could be. But also, honestly, what makes me more nervous than anything is the putter from, let's go take a look. I want to show you guys, or show myself even. He has been gaining. This is what blew my mind, is that he's been gaining with the putter. It's been the irons and then of course off the tee is what kind of got him there. So things that if you watched him play a lot, you would have thought, hey, it was the putter and not so much, off the tee and irons. Now, when he still has got the distance, he was just a little wayward. And funny enough, he's been hitting a lot of draws, at least that coverage I watched on the Farmers, and maybe that's been his shot, but like a high draw. And at times it was coming back and at times it wasn't. Also, you got to remember the wind that they dealt with the second day on the South course. So anyways, I don't have a problem. I think it's a great course fit. And if his ownership, if you can get, less than 10% on Will Z on this and the price tag at 8,700, I think I'm in on that. Hard to say that I'd rather play, Rose over Will Z. Taylor Montgomery, I told you my first bet. Everything in my mind says he should have a good tournament here. Now we'll see how that all works out. Sahith, I'm on. All right, I'm gonna fly through this. Thomas Detry, let's go look at him real quick because I was not on him and then started to do a little more research and kind of got excited about him. And so he's going to be in this main build lineup that I'm going to be showing you guys. And what was interesting about it is, of course, he's got that elite distance. Accuracy could be a problem, but green and reg is super high. Now, we don't have as much data on Detry because, of course, he plays or did play a lot in the DP World Tour, but I think he's trying to make that transition as we speak. This is what was interesting is he's not missed a cut at all on the PGA Tour since he's been playing on the tour over here. Now that's the Corn Ferry. Funny enough, he missed a cut, but that was one thing that interested me. And really, it's just been the putter where he's had. I mean, the ball striking has been pretty decent. The irons, around the green. For his price tag, I think he's kind of getting maybe a little overlooked. He was overlooked by me, but I think the course fit could be really good. So I'm going to be plugging him in quite a bit at that price tag at, I believe he's 7,100. So I wanted to share that. So he's at 6%. So I'm not the only one that's out there. Of course, you got Hahn, Nick Taylor. We already know had a great showing recently. You got Hahn, who has had a good course history here. Sam Ryder, even me, he was in that group, or he was in front of Wilsey at the Farmers. You got to remember how well he played on the South Course and the North Course the first 2 days. I think out of everybody within, he had the best score, of course, running at that time. And just played a really good tournament. POA, very long, tough track. So no reason we shouldn't be all over Ryder. He does have an afternoon tee time. I don't think that's a huge reason not to play him. You'll see. It's not like it's going to be crazy wins, but there's going to be some win, and that's what I wanted to talk about. All right, that's really it. I mean, I'll scroll down real slow for you. So if there's someone that you want to hone in on, you got Cam Davis, who's just been in bad form, but there's a play at 7,000 that could be what a differentiator. We all know that Cam can do it. It's just he's had a couple bad tournaments. A lot of hype on Colin Tarrant. He's just a lead off the tee. He does have an early tee time, and I'll have some interest in it, but I don't think it's all that. Adrian Moronk, same thing, just crazy elite. Dylan Fratelli, let's go take a look at him. I think nobody's talking about Dylan Fratelli. He's gained, more distance than that. He had a good showing. I think I picked him at the Waste Management for you guys, but you wouldn't have saw it unless you went on Twitter. And you can see he's had really nice last, two tournaments. So that's what do we got? 72, 150 rounds or 150 holes of golf. Struggled before that, but a lot of that was even last year. But watch out for him. Everything is clicking, and it's a pretty good price tag on him. And he's also really low owned. I mean, not a lot of people. He just pops up, like I said. Watch out. He pops up at the oddest times. So let me do that too. So you can go kind of see where he's had some good finishes. Sanderson Farms is a tough, long track. And he popped up to FedEx. He popped up at Valero. You just see, he's almost like a little bit of Siwoo Kim-ish. The Open, literally out of nowhere. Then if you remember the Masters that DJ won right here, out of nowhere. And that was right when he made that switch and gained the distance. So it's been a while. It's been over 2 years that he all of a sudden just started hitting the ball 330, 340 off the tee. So anyways, something to note to yourself if you're not familiar with Mr. Fratelli. Tiger Woods, I've already talked in length. No, thank you. Again, here's some guys. If you see the stars, that means they have early morning tee times. I just want to note that again. Just see if there's anybody down here that I was interested in that is really lowly owned. And if it has a star, it doesn't mean I'm interested. It just means they have an early tee time. I think Aaron Rai, not a lot of talk. So funny enough, everybody jumped on Aaron Rai because of what he did at the Farmers previous. And then now nobody wants anything to do with him. And I think that's really interesting. If you take the tack that, hey, I don't need an extra 20 yards. I just got to be in the fairway, especially if what Scotty Scheffler said that the Kikuyu rough is playing much harder. I think it makes sense to build a lineup that, guys are, very accurate. And you can see gains on POA, and, he's making cuts, but he really hasn't been doing anything that great. His last best showing was the Houston Open, where he gained, and that was Bermuda, gained 4.5. But, I think it's not a bad play, especially from a ownership differentiation in the big game. I kind of like Rai at 6,600. So if you're looking for a guy down there that I didn't mention before, I kind of like Aaron Rai, less than 1% owned, at least coming out of Fantasy National. I think that's about the only one else I really want to call out. My buddy Adam Svensson, I'd love to play him, but man, he has been in some really bad. Of course, got my Brokeback Boy. This is not a course that I think at all that he would do well at. All right, that's it. That's your ownership projection. So hopefully that gives you some help if you are into playing the big game and you want to differentiate a little bit. It gives you some ideas. All right, now let's go talk about him and mentioning this weather. So you're going to want to pull up the Santa Monica Airport. Now there's two spots right around the course. There's one that's on the water, which this course is not on the water. It is set back in a little bit. I don't know. I'd say probably like 100 miles or so from the ocean. Maybe not that much, maybe 50 miles. Santa Monica Airport would be exactly the same. It's just below the course. So that's the one I'm going with. And what, the weather's been changing. I've been kind of updating this, and this is looking at local time. We don't really care about what's going on today. You can definitely see they got some wind going on there right now. But if you look at what's going on, is it's showing really calm in the morning for these guys. Then you're going to have the afternoon pickup, and this actually went up a little bit, and I'm just curious if it's going to keep. What was more interesting to me is, so if you got the guys that were teeing off in the morning, then they're going to get the afternoon. Now, if you look here, what it's saying again on Windfinder is that Friday morning you could have gust up 17 miles an hour. Who knows that changed, but the wind's going to be in the morning, and then it's going to lay down in the afternoon. Now, I'm going to pre-warn you on that. Whenever I see this, sometimes it does not happen. Typically, as we all know, wake up in the morning, typically it's pretty calm. And then as the afternoon comes along, especially if you're anywhere around water, the winds typically pick up. That kind of started me thinking, well, hey, I'm going to put some lineups together that had the early morning start. And maybe, this happens and maybe even gets worse. It's not a bad idea. And so with that said, if you're curious, let me go jump over to the tee times. They are out. And a lot of guys, so right there, Thomas Detry gets the first tee spot going off one. My buddy Taylor Montgomery. So these two guys I'm very interested in building some lineups with. I was already, playing Taylor Montgomery. Thomas Detry kind of opened the eye when I started to do some more due diligence on him. You got Hayden Buckley, you got Taylor Moore, Ben Taylor. Like some of these guys have been touted in the, in the 6,000 range. If you're curious. James Hahn, of course, been touted, just again, course history. There's Colin Tarrant, also been touted in the $6,300 range early in the morning. But you got some nice groups here, right? You got this Rahm, Cantlay, Victor Hovland. It's got the early morning. And then you got Finau, Adam Scott, Billy Ho, which, I've still been out, but, even Homa and Xander. So there's the Homa Xander that I'm interested in. You also got Will Z that gets an early morning tee time and gets, the afternoon the next day. You got my buddy Fratelli, you got Clark. Anybody else I want to call out? Nick Hardy was, one of the guys I mentioned. Aaron Rye, I think it's a good play. Connors, I'm off right now. I'm going to wait till he gets on Bermuda. Wait till he hit the Florida swing. Griot, kind of these two, I think, are just so similar. So if you're going to play one, I would guess Griot's got to be cheaper. But yeah, and you guys know I'm a huge fan of both, but just they're not playing the golf that we were hoping. And the putter is just a disaster. Typically, I picked Killer Keith, so he also got an early tee time. Right here, these guys have all afternoon. And you can look at this, of course. Just go to PGA Tour tee times. So with all that said, I started messing around with the lineup, and this is one that I'm pretty interested in. And so if you want to see kind of my top guys, are going to be Homa, Schauffele, that Montgomery, and Detry. So I got a couple of high nines, a couple of mid sevens. And then you got a lot of different ways you can go with this, and that's what I thought we could do. We can just mess around a little. So, if you want to plug in a Finau to get that really strong 3, you still got 6,200. Now, anything below 6,300 is pretty difficult, is what I've been seeing. There's not a lot of guys that I would even think of. Maybe Tway, Glover. I'd put him in, like I said, that ball striker kind of no putt with like a Griot and a Connors. Yeah, there's really nobody at 6,200 that I could even tell you that I'd want to play. So I think we scratched the Finau. What's even a little more interesting, again, if you want to stay with the early morning guys, who did I mention? And Finau was one of the early morning guys. You could go like a Mitchell Day. Let's see where he is at right here. Well, if I go Mitchell, then that kind of kills that, doesn't it? To see Day leaves me 73. You get that chalky Fleetwood, it seems like. And I think it's kind of chalky comparative to what he was. You got Taylor Moore. He's early tee time. And again, that's where this is kind of a focus. You got Rogers, everybody's touting. I don't know if he's early. It's Rogers early morning tee time. I didn't notice where he was at. Will Z. There we go. So let's do this. This would be the lineup that I think I'm going to lean towards. We'll go with my favorite lineup that you guys can judge me on. All right, we got Cam Davis, got Rogers, Woodland, of course. If he could putt, let's go look at Woodland. I want to show you guys this because I was shocked. But here's something to think about. Let's go look at Gary Woodland real fast. Of course, he's got the distance, good ball striker. We all know that. The putting is a disaster. But that is, funny enough, if you just look at these last two events, he's made the cut on both, but has lost over 5 strokes with the putter. So you can start to look at that and say, well, maybe that's going to change. I don't think it's going to change. Now, when he gets to Florida, it just seems like he's had some really good putting outings. most recently. But anyways, what I was going with is, that'd be kind of interesting. And all right, so if we have 7,000, I don't know, you could go with Cam Davis if you really want to get some differentiation. Hayden Buckley, I know for sure. He has an early. There's that Moronk if you want to take a crazy flyer. That's really not what I'm up to. Griot had an early morning. Nick Hardy, I don't remember exactly. Listed not. There's Sam Ryder, and I think Ryder though is late afternoon because I was interested in him. And again, not that you can't plug him in, man. I mean, I'm just saying if you are going to build a build with that early morning tee time, but that's what we're kind of doing here. I'm gonna gotta stay. So, all right, let me just go here, and I could probably, without even looking at pricing, I can tell you who would fit in that I might be interested in playing. So it's pretty much between Buckley, Moore, and Ben Taylor. And I think out of the three, well, Moore was actually a little more. I think I'd probably just end up with Buckley. We can go take a look at him for you so you can see why maybe Buckley. So let's plug him in. And, I didn't leave any money, but pretty differentiation. I don't think this would be too widely, again, with the ownership projections. Homa and Schauffele right now look chalky. But I think Detry, Wilsey, and Buckley are going to be pretty low and owned, and we can go check that. Anyway, so that's a lineup that I'm interested in. I wanted to do that for you. So if you guys want to hold me to task, this is a lineup that I'll play. So don't dupe me. Just kidding. If you wanted, we'll split the 300K. Yeah, and the money is up a little bit in the big game. So you got Homa, Schauffele, Montgomery, Detry, Wilsey, and Hayden Buckley. Again, this is a focus if you're putting together an early morning tee time because of what I showed you on the weather side. Now, I'm not saying that, wow, that weather is so crazy, you need to do this. I'm saying, could it get a little worse? It could, but maybe there's a tiny advantage. And the last thing I want to do for you guys real fast, I mentioned I just changed up the model a little bit. This is just looking at, while we're at it, I'll just show you this. This is looking at just Riviera, the last 3 tournaments they played. And if you're curious, not a whole lot changed, right? I did fairways gained in distance, so 35%. So really focusing off the tee, again, because of that rough, being stated that it's up a bit. It's going to be tough to get out of. And if you're kind of new to this, if you don't understand, well, why is it so important that you hit the ball far off the tee? Because the farther you hit it, if you're in the rough either way, the shorter iron you have in. Getting a short iron out comparative to a longer iron, like a 5 iron to a 7 iron, or a 6 iron to an 8 iron, that's huge, big difference. I talked highly in length about this back in the days of DeChambeau, what he could do because of, and hence when he won at Wingfoot, how high the rough was, and that was the same. Also, he has a very steep incline into the ball, and that was the same with our buddy Matthew Wolf, who also did very well there. They hit it so far, it didn't matter if they went in the rough or not. Okay, back on task. Approach stayed the same around the green. I upped it 5%. The putter, I think I even upped this proximity. So I took out birdies and really just kind of really focused in on this. And if you're curious who like the top guys are on my rank, I apologize. I had that on. That was early morning tee times. Again, if you see the star, and you can see it right here, early morning tee times. Funny enough, Fleetwood, but that's some older data. Oh, but that is at Riviera. Yeah, I mean, I have not put Fleetwood in on anywhere, but I think at that price tag, I'm going to eat the chalk probably in some lineups. You got Scotty Morikawa. Now, this again is just looking at the past 3 tournaments at Riviera. Let's go look at all courses, and let's go look at the last 24 rounds. So let's do that on the fly. All right, so if you are interested, Tony Finau actually now comes up number 1. If we look at, of course, he's got those, 3 wins in like the last, I don't know, now 7, 8 tournaments. Let's go look at that. Yeah, so 3 wins, and I guess it's been a few more tournaments than that, actually. About 10? But still playing really good golf. Putter kind of went away a little bit, right? He had this crazy putting streak. So if you're curious what happened, why is he not, I don't know, top 5 contending? He's just not putting as good as he was. So again, that could change. Where's he done his best? Bermuda. RBC Canadian. Is that bent? I think it is. Yeah. All right, let's go back. Sorry, now we're on a Tony Finau rabbit hole. Bent. Yeah, so it makes sense. A lot of this is bent. That's Bermuda. Of course, he has that runner-up on POA. So anyways, just that was a little side. Okay, you got Day. coming in, Rory, Scheffler. So all good names that you might want to play. Wilsey is still, that number is pulling back quite a bit. Siwoo, Tom Kim, Fleetwood, KH Lee, got, Ben Taylor. It's kind of funny. The models just keep want me to play Ben Taylor, but I don't understand how it's not grabbing these 3 missed cuts. And it is, but just the way my model must be set, it's kind of sporadic, right? He's still good off the tee and approach. He just wasn't scoring it, lost 4 strokes there. This was just a birdie fest and he didn't make enough. But a really nice run back, end of fall. So it's pulling this data in. So that's why Ben Taylor keeps popping up if you're curious. And I'm not saying it's a bad play. Well, let me see. What has he got from a distance perspective? Yeah, pretty good. Pretty accurate. I play him a bit in Showdown. He's a good price for what he can produce. Yeah. So anyways, that gives you, I wanted to show you that little new model that I did. If you were curious, maybe it helps you on some last decisions. All right, guys, that's it. Let's go. I'm going to wrap this up real fast for you and get you out of here, and good luck in the tournament. All right. So as always, thank you. I wanted to give you a little more information that I had, and now you guys have it. Hopefully that helps you out. Again, don't take those win splits I was talking about and tee times is the end all be all. But if you're going to build a lot of lineups, I don't know, I call a lot 20. If you're going to put 20 in that 300K game, you're looking for every advantage you can. So, I'm going to put a few lineups under that construction, hence that lineup I just showed you. And yeah, as always, like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I think it's I'm not, honestly, I don't get anything out of Twitter, but that is where a lot of my stuff goes on the, right off the bat. I don't go back into YouTube and put comments usually. I'll respond to yours, but I don't typically post anything there. So if you want any updates from me, any modeling, anything I see, withdrawals, anything that comes out of PGA Tour media, follow me on Twitter and turn on notifications there. All right, guys, take care. All the best of luck to us, and I'll talk to you guys Monday, where I believe we're going to start the Florida swing. I think off the top of my head, the Honda. So we'll talk to you guys then. Have a great weekend.